While I slept, my son set our room ablaze. What my husband exposed next was even more shocking. Lisa jolted awake to acrid smoke filling her lungs. The frantic cries of her son, Henry, echoed in her ears, urging her to act. Energy surged through her, an instinctual drive to protect him. She stumbled out of bed, the familiar contours of their living room now becoming twisted and foreign, a landscape of terror. Flames danced along the walls, illuminating the fear on her son's face. As she scooped him into her arms, a profound realization struck her. The home she fought so hard to build was crumbling, not just around her but within. Every moment she spent working at the hospital, caring for others, felt overshadowed by a catastrophe that had started with innocent curiosity. This wasn't just an ordinary night in their perfect suburban town. It was the night their lives changed forever. The remnants of the American dream they clung to felt suddenly surreal, teetering on the brink of chaos. As her heart raced and her mind scrambled to process the crisis, Lisa contemplated the fragility of it all. Was their life as stable as she believed? Doubt began to creep in, weaving through her thoughts like smoke acclimating to the air. In the aftermath, it was evident that the fire had consumed more than just their living room. The fresh agony of loss was compounded by the weight of her husband's looming presence, still clinging to the remnants of a facade he had crafted. Mark sat silently, an island of shame amid the chaos, as Lisa rummaged through charred memories. It was during this unprecedented vulnerability that Mark finally confessed. Their once sturdy life was plagued by debts he had hidden away, debts that now threatened to uproot everything. "Lisa," he began, his voice shaking, "I should have told you. I didn't want to burden you." The words hung in the air, heavy with the scent of betrayal. A wave of nausea rolled over her as the realization burned sharper than any flame. How could he hide something so monumental? The raw truth of his deception ignited a crisis that felt more devastating than the fire itself. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Among the ashes of their home, Lisa's thoughts spiraled into a whirlwind of anger and despair. Memories of their wedding vows, honesty, loyalty, partnership, played on loop in her mind, taunting her as she stared into the remnants of what they had built. She remembered the countless nights she pored over Henry's homework, the family dinners that felt like achievements. Those moments were now overshadowed by the crumbling trust between her and Mark. As whispers circulated around the neighborhood, judgment seeped through the cracks, and the isolation she felt deepened. From the ashes emerged a sense of urgency to confront their reality, but it was paired with an uncertainty that gnawed at her. Could she reconcile with Mark's past, or was forgiveness a bridge too far? As she stood at the precipice of a choice that would define their future, a voice from a neighboring house broke the tension. An unfamiliar neighbor, who had always kept to themselves, held vital pieces of information about Mark's family legacy. Lisa's heart raced. Would this revelation offer a glimmer of hope, or plant the final seed of doubt in her heart? As her body tensed, a shiver raced down her spine. The flames may have consumed their home, but the truth loomed over them, waiting to ignite even greater turmoil. Lisa took a deep breath, forcing herself to center her thoughts amid the chaos. The flickering lights of the neighbors' flashlights flashed like specters across the soot-stained walls as she moved closer to the fence that separated their properties. Each step felt weighted, burdened by uncertainty and fear of what might unravel. "Can we talk?" The neighbor beckoned, his quiet demeanor contrasting sharply with the torrent of emotions surging within her. She nodded slowly, doubt clouding her mind. What secrets could one man possibly hold that would shed light on the devastation that had consumed her life? With cautious steps, she joined him by the fence, the two of them framed by the crackling remnants of a home that had once stood proudly. "You're Lisa, right? I've seen you before, but... well?" He drifted off, a hint of hesitation creeping into his tone. "I didn't want to intrude. Did you know my husband, Mark?" Uncertainty dripped from her words. There had been whispers about his family, those sordid secrets cloaked in layers of deception, but she had always brushed them aside. It seemed ludicrous that she might find answers in someone who had avoided them until now. "Yes, I knew him. His family has always been at odds with themselves. I thought you should know, especially with everything happening." The neighbor cast a wary glance toward her, gauging her response. Pretty soon, his eyes flickered to the remnants of her home, reflecting empathy mingled with concern. "There are issues surrounding their finances, hidden debts like you wouldn't believe." Anger flared anew in Lisa's chest. "I know about the debts, but why didn't anybody say anything before this?" The man cleared his throat, a mix of regret and reluctance on his face. "Because they were afraid, bound by a web of shame and their own failures. Mark didn't want you to shoulder his guilt or his past, but burdens like those," he pointed toward the ashes, "they have a way of surfacing, even in the quietest moments." The words hit her like a bucket of cold water, cutting through the haze of despair. Was Mark really just trying to protect her? Or was he simply hiding behind a shield of lies? Every fiber of her being screamed for justice and accountability. How could she forgive what she had yet to fully comprehend? "Do you know if he's still hiding anything?" Lisa's voice wavered, a desperate plea mixed with an unyielding resolve. She needed to know the depths of her husband's deceptions, or face the ramifications of choices she might make next. "No idea," the neighbor replied with a resigned shake of his head. "But I've seen similar stories ruin families before. You have to decide for yourself what to do with this knowledge." Lisa took a step back, absorbing the weight of his words. As she turned away, the longing for answers twisted inside her. She needed clarity, perhaps even a means to reclaim her autonomy that had been stripped away in recent days. Back at the remains of what she once called home, her gaze fell on Henry, who was still processing the nightmare that had unfolded. The harsh reality crashed against her heart. She had to be a pillar for him, yet her own foundation was crumbling. As Mark emerged from the shadows, his fear evident and his expression unreadable, the moment crystallized into an inevitable confrontation. The time had come to face the truth behind her husband's hidden debts and the implications it held for their family. They could no longer hide from the past. Lisa stood tall, determined. "Mark," she called, her voice steadying, "we need to talk." The moment of truth arrived, and with it, the promise of both revelation and reconciliation hung heavily in the air. Was she ready to discover the full extent of his betrayal? Would their marriage withstand the looming storm? Lisa felt her heart thud against her chest as she locked eyes with Mark. The tension crackled between them, thick and suffocating, like the smoke that still lingered in the air around their shattered home. What had moments ago been a sanctuary felt more like a ghost town. Its remains echoed with whispers of secrets best left buried. "Lisa," Mark began, his voice strained, each word pooling with unspoken fear. "I wanted to protect you." He stepped forward, but she held her ground, unwilling to let him draw her into his web of half-truths any longer. His chestnut eyes brimmed with anxiety, betraying the confidence he once wore like armor. "By lying to me?" she countered, the bitterness dripping from her tone. She could see the flicker of hurt behind his bravado. "Your secrets have nearly cost us everything, Mark. If you had just been honest." Challenging his insistent gaze, Lisa felt the anger boiling within her, but mingled with it was a deep-rooted longing for clarity. The words of the neighbor, spoken just moments before, echoed in her mind. The debts, the shame. How much was hidden beneath the surface? What other truths waited in the shadows, buried alongside the charred memories of their life together? "I made choices based on what I thought was best for us," he implored, desperation tinting his voice. "You don't understand how hard it's been to deal with my family. Their debts, their failures, they're like thorns. I wanted better for you and Henry." "Better for us?" Lisa scoffed, shaking her head in disbelief. "You think shoving our problems under the rug and pretending everything is fine is better? Look around. This is the result of your decisions." Despite wanting to scream, a thread of vulnerability pulled her focus back to him. She recalled the nights when they first started their journey together, how they braved life's complexities side by side. But now, this was a different journey, one straddled with the burdens of betrayal and doubt. "Tell me the truth, Mark," she said, her voice trembling yet firm. "Everything. I can't live like this anymore." With a deep, trembling breath, Mark's posture shifted, an almost imperceptible unburdening. "Okay, I owe you that much." As he revealed the intricate details of his family's financial disarray, how they had masked losses with loans and deceit, Lisa felt a whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. The fear that had gripped her heart mixed with a surprising thread of resolve. In that moment, she understood something critical. Knowledge was power, and every truth he revealed neared her toward a path of reclaimed autonomy. "I need to think," she said quietly, as the pieces of their fractured lives began clicking into place. She had spent too long as a passenger in her own life, letting fears dictate her decisions. Now, she realized, she had the authority to navigate this storm on her terms. The flicker of resolve burned bright within her. Like the blinding light of a raging fire, it promised both destruction and the flickering hope of rebirth. Could they emerge stronger from this chaos, or was this the end of their partnership? As the air thickened with the weight of Mark's confessions, Lisa felt the burgeoning potential of independent choices looming on the horizon. What would happen if she fundamentally reshaped her life based on the truths he had revealed? "I will not live in the ashes of your past," she finally declared. "Whatever lies ahead, I'm reclaiming my story." With that declaration hovering in the air, she turned her back on the chaos of their past. Every step away from their remnants beckoned with the uncertainty of the future. Still, the fire within her crackled with purpose. The mere notion of carving a new path, however daunting, ignited a fierce determination. Unbeknownst to Lisa, her decision to confront the broken fragments of her life was just the beginning. The depth of her resolve would be tested further than she could ever imagine, and soon enough, she would discover just how resilient she really was. In that moment of clarity, she whispered a fervent inner prayer. "Whatever it takes, I will find a way." Little did she know, the choices she would soon face would plunge her deeper into the heart of revelation, illuminating truths that could either shatter her progress or propel her into an unexpected journey of recovery and empowerment. As she stepped away from Mark, uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would courage lead her to the life she genuinely desired, or would it trap her within the very cycle she wished to escape? The silence that enveloped Lisa felt almost suffocating as she stepped away from the remnants of her prior life. Was this truly the end of everything she had known? Each footfall echoed the weight of her decisions, each step an attempt to forge a new path in the ashes of what once was. The world outside seemed impossibly bright and alive, a stark contrast to the emotional storm swirling within her. She had always prided herself on her ability to cope, but her encounter with Mark had unraveled her carefully constructed facade. The pain of betrayal had morphed into something else, an insistent tug of empowerment. She was no longer content to be a passive participant in her own life story. This realization churned in her stomach, giving rise to a distinctive fire within. As the days passed, the words exchanged between her and Mark clawed at her consciousness. She began to question not only his choices, but her own. How had she allowed herself to be pulled into his orbit? Lisa wanted more than just a fleeting sense of courage. She craved a concrete plan. Sitting at the table that once buzzed with family laughter, She took out a notebook, a journal that had been dormant for years. It felt momentous to open it. The blank pages embodied endless possibilities, waiting for her to pen her new narrative. "This is where it starts," she whispered to herself, each letter daring to splash vibrant colors across her once monochrome life. The first task was clear: reevaluate her goals and priorities. Reconstructing her future meant understanding what she truly wanted, no longer overshadowed by Mark's decisions. She could almost envision it, a self-sufficient woman, standing tall and filled with purpose, creating her own success. The thought sent shivers of excitement through her. It was intoxicating. Progress was slow but steady. Each day brought new revelations about her capabilities and interests. She honed her culinary skills, something she had long neglected, experimenting in the kitchen. The act of cooking became therapeutic. Every chop and stir symbolized her efforts to reclaim control over her own life. Friends noticed the transformation. Invitations to cook for gatherings rolled in, and with each compliment, she felt a rush of validation. Yet, beneath this growing confidence remained the haunting shadows of her relationship with Mark. Their discussions grew more strained. Mark often attempted to bridge the gap, but Lisa sensed his uncertainty, his lingering guilt acting as a barrier. While part of her longed for reconciliation, another part was cautiously aware that trust could not be rekindled overnight. One night, as she prepared a dinner for friends, an unexpected knock at the door startled her. She glanced through the peephole and felt her pulse quicken. It was Julia, her friend from the neighborhood. "Can I come in? I need to talk to you about something important," Julia said, her voice tense. Lisa's heart raced as she opened the door, a surge of trepidation coursing through her. What could be so urgent? As she led Julia inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming would challenge everything she had built in her resolve. "What is it?" Lisa managed to ask as they settled down at the table. Julia's expression was grave. She hesitated before revealing, "I heard something troubling about Mark and his family. Something that could change everything." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. Would this new information shatter the fragile progress she had made? Or would it provide clarity in the fog while she stepped toward a resolute future? As she braced herself for Julia's words, anticipation twisted in her gut. Would this revelation push her further along her path of self-discovery? Or would it threaten to pull her back into a quagmire of doubt and distrust? Suddenly, the stakes felt impossibly high, and Lisa knew that whatever Julia had to say next would determine her next steps, one way or another. The air hung thick with tension as Julia, visibly shaken, finally spoke. "I heard that Mark's family is facing financial turmoil. They're struggling, and he might be involved in decisions that could affect you more than you realize." Lisa's heart raced, torn between disbelief and a gnawing suspicion. Mark's protective demeanor and the certainty he exuded had masked the reality of his situation. Revelations scattered like ash in the air. The truth was beginning to reshape itself, yet a part of her recoiled at the notion that his distress might pull her back into the orbit she had fought so hard to escape. "Financial struggles?" she echoed, searching Julia's face for any hint of exaggeration. "What does that mean for us?" Julia hesitated, her gaze shifting to the floor. "I don't know the specifics, but I heard he's been using loans to cover expenses, and there are even claims about mismanagement." Each syllable spilled from Julia's lips like lead, weighing heavy on Lisa's conscience. Uncertainty ensnared her thoughts. How much of Mark's life had been shadowed by these issues? Had her image of him as a stable partner been nothing more than a mirage? As Lisa processed this new information, a wave of conflicting emotions surged within her. It beckoned her to extend compassion towards Mark, yet simultaneously screamed for self-preservation. "All this time, I thought he was building a secure path for us," she muttered, an edge of bitterness creeping into her voice. "Maybe he thought so too, until it all became too much to handle," Julia replied softly, the tone carrying an unexpected empathy. That empathy sparked another dawn of awareness within Lisa. Mark's struggles could undoubtedly explain his recent erratic behavior, but they didn't absolve his betrayal or justify the shadows over their trust. She felt a fire stirring again, igniting the embers of her determination. It was becoming clear that as much as Mark's personal crises deserved consideration, she couldn't allow herself to slip back into dependency. "In managing my own path, I have to prioritize my own goals," she said resolutely, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. Lisa's internal tumult dropped like a stone into a still pond, creating ripples that would reverberate through her thoughts. She envisioned moments when her happiness could no longer be tethered to another's choices. "Have you thought about how this affects your decisions moving forward?" Julia prompted, bringing Lisa back to the present moment. "I need to clarify my position," Lisa declared, envisioning her future not as a shared dream shaped by another's misfortunes, but a personal mission grounded in her own aspirations. It was almost intoxicating to imagine reclaiming her narrative. "It's time to make my own decisions, regardless of Mark's truth." Julia smiled, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "That's the spirit I've been waiting to see come alive." As they spoke further about the prospect of Lisa's growth, ideas began to flourish once again. Her culinary pursuits could expand beyond mere therapy. What if this emerging passion could evolve into a small catering business? The thought sparked anticipation, bathing her in possibility. But beneath the excitement, the question lingered. How would she confront Mark with this new awareness of his situation? Could their past still hold significance in light of what she now knew? It became clear that the moments ahead wouldn't simply define their relationship, but would test her resolve in ways she couldn't yet foresee. "I need to prepare," she acknowledged, both to Julia and herself. Figuring out how to handle Mark's revelations while fostering her own ambitions was undoubtedly a delicate line to walk. And therein lay the unfolding drama of her story, a story demanding depth, resolution, and ultimately confrontation. As the evening drew to a close, Julia's departure left Lisa alone again, the adrenaline of inspiration and fear merging within her. She took a deep breath, ready to confront the man who had become synonymous with uncertainty in her life. Tomorrow's conversation would not only determine their relationship, but also signal the next chapter in her journey towards self-rediscovery. Could she embrace her power while navigating the treacherous waters of Mark's complications, or would this need for confrontation bring her to a breaking point? Lisa's heart raced at the thought, bracing herself for whatever came next as she found herself at a crossroads that would test her newfound strength. The sun rose with a sense of foreboding, casting long shadows that echoed the uncertainty that coursed through Lisa. She stirred, the weight of her decision looming overhead like a thundercloud. Mark's face flashed in her mind, alternating between the comforting gaze of a partner and the troubled expression of a man ensnared in his own web of troubles. Today would not just be a routine conversation, it would be a reckoning. As she prepared for the day, Lisa scrutinized her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She had always acknowledged a fierce resilience within herself, but today it felt like a fragile facade. Flashes of last night's revelations replayed vividly behind her eyes. The idea of Mark, a man she had trusted, not only battling financial demons, but possibly hiding significant parts of himself as well. She cast aside the thoughts, reminding herself that personal growth required confronting uncomfortable truths, both about herself and others. Her culinary ambitions danced just beneath the surface. Ideas for her catering business were settling into place, feeding her excitement. But deep within resided a nagging doubt. Could her heart truly commit to a future initiative when her present was tangled with uncertainty? As she brewed her coffee, she considered how potential success might inspire her. Could she wield her passion as a shield while unraveling Mark's secrets? The prospect sent a chill through her. The clock ticked mercilessly closer to their agreed time to talk. Each second seemed to stretch, pulling taut the threads of Lisa's nerves. As she dressed, she opted for a simple yet elegant outfit, a tangible representation of her resolve to reclaim her life. It was more than a physical appearance. It was a statement redressing herself in power and intent. When it was finally time, Lisa dialed Mark's number, the weight of the phone in her hand like a lead ball, and yet invigorating. The moment he answered, she could hear the familiar, soothing timbre of his voice, but a sense of distance lingered behind it. "Hey, Lisa," he said, a casualness in his tone that felt increasingly disquieting. "Mark, we need to talk." The simplicity of her words belied the storm flaring inside her. "Okay, what's up?" He sounded nonchalant, but Lisa could sense an undertone of apprehension, a crack in the veneer of his composure. She took a sharp breath, summoning her courage. "It's about you, about us. I heard some concerning things about your situation. Financial issues, Mark." Her voice held firm, yet the tremor of vulnerability threaded through her. There was silence on the other end, a pause that felt heavier than she anticipated. She could picture him, the way his brows would furrow and his shoulders might tighten, bracing for what was to come. "How did you find out?" His question, while defensive, struck a chord in her resolve. "You don't get to dodge this. I understand that life can be messy, but you can't keep me in the dark." Each word pushed boundaries, one she had previously avoided crossing in their relationship. "Lisa, it's complicated. I didn't want you to worry." His response tapped a familiar instinct to protect, which had always deterred her from seeking deeper truths. "That's just it, Mark. I can't go on without knowing the realities we're facing. This disconnect you've created is suffocating." She paused, allowing that weight to settle. He let out a deep sigh, the kind that spoke volumes about his burden. "You think you're ready for the truth?" Hearing his voice shifted something inside of her. She was at the edge of something significant, urging herself to leap. She pressed onwards. "I want to understand what's happening, to decide where we go from here." The sound of shuffling on his end sent a tremor of anxiety through her. "Then meet me tonight. There's a lot I need to explain." The finality in his voice made her pulse quicken with both dread and anticipation. What lay behind those words? She felt as if she stood at the mouth of a cave, unsure if it would lead to treasure or collapse beneath her. As the call ended, she realized the unfolding of her narrative depended not just on confronting Mark, but choosing how much of herself she was willing to immerse in this precarious situation. Each revelation held the potential to dismantle the very fabric of their relationship, a truth she was both eager and fearful to confront. But how could she prepare for what came next, if the truth Mark was concealing held twists even she couldn't foresee? The whispers of her aspirations melded with shadows of apprehension, and uncertainty began to dance dangerously close as the day wore on. What truths awaited her in the dark corners of their world together? Would she discover strength, or would she confront the startling reality that her hopes may crumble with the revelation? Lisa found herself pacing the confines of her modest kitchen, the soft glow of the evening sun spilling through the window, contrasting sharply with the storm brewing within her. She hardly registered the aroma of the caramelizing shallots on the stove, her thoughts spiraling into a cyclone of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Mark's impending revelations dangled over her like a guillotine, each tick of the kitchen clock echoing her rising anxiety. This meeting was not merely a confrontation, it was a threshold. She understood that if she truly wanted to navigate this murky territory between them, she needed to excavate the truth from beneath layers of deception. Yet, within this deliberate quest for honesty, a stark realization dawned on her. Knowing the truth could strip her of the Edwardian fantasy she had built around their love. Would she emerge bruised or stronger? Determined not to hide behind culinary distractions, she diverted her attention to the culinary notebooks she had organized, vibrant with sketches and ideas for her catering business. Every page had the potential to catapult her into a new life, yet oddly, this feeling of excitement was tainted by dread. How could she devote herself to this venture when her foundation felt so precarious? It was as if the walls of her ambition were built on quicksand. Suddenly, a wave of resolution swept over her. She had held back for too long, both in her career and her personal life. Change demanded risk, and she had already identified the first step. She needed to confront Mark, not just for him, but for herself. The exchanges between them had been simmering beneath the surface for too long, and tonight, everything would boil over. As the hour approached, she spruced up her appearance one last time, confidence colliding with frantic anticipation. Perhaps this act of dressing up was symbolic, each article of clothing a defense against self-doubt. With every fold of her blouse and tighten of her belt, Lisa swallowed back her fear and transformed it into her armor. When she finally stepped outside into the dusky evening, an unusual calm wrapped around her like a whisper of wind. The soft glow from street lamps illuminated her path, reassuring her that the world continued to buzz, even as uncertainty thrummed in her chest. She walked with purpose towards their meeting spot, her heart pounding not merely with fear, but with an awakening sense of agency. Arriving at the small cafe where they had first shared dreams about their future, she settled at a corner table, the low hum of chatter around her offering some comfort. Lisa pulled out her notebook, flipping absent-mindedly through the pages to steady herself. Here, contained in ink and sketches, was her vision of a future bursting with potential, each caterer's dream, interlaced with the essence of who she wanted to become. Then, a familiar figure entered, instantly commanding her attention. Mark's shoulders were slightly hunched, his expression a mixture of anxiety and defiance as he scanned the room. Lisa felt a jolt of recognition. She could see the man she loved, yet a stranger loomed beneath the surface, a man struggling against shadows she had yet to uncover. Their eyes locked, and she gestured for him to sit, her voice steady despite the tumbling sensations within. "Thanks for meeting me," he muttered, his casual tone clashing with the tension enveloping them. "We have a lot to discuss, Mark. I need to know what you've been hiding. Why didn't you trust me with the truth?" His gaze flickered over her, a part of him grappling with her directness. "I didn't want to burden you. You have your own dreams," he replied, fumbling for words rooted in both love and fear. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself, and said, "But keeping me in the dark has been the biggest burden of all." As they began to peel away the layers of their relationship, she felt the weight of both their fears and hopes settle between them. The air crackled, ripe with unspoken words. With each question and answer, an undeniable tension emerged, revealing the shape of their realities. But the greatest discovery lay ahead, waiting to be laid bare in the flickering candlelight between them. What Mark revealed next would not just challenge their relationship, but test the very core of who she believed herself to be. The path forward had twists unimagined, and Lisa braced herself. What hidden complexities would emerge? Would the truth deepen their connection or unravel the very fabric of their shared aspirations? She could only hope she was ready for whatever storm lay ahead. Mark hesitated before speaking, taking a moment that felt infinitely long. The animated chatter around them faded, and all Lisa could hear was the thudding of her own heart. The weight of his silence held an intensity that threatened to drown her. As she braced for the words that would tumble from his lips, every pulse of emotion within her demanded resolution. "I've been struggling with something for a while now," Mark finally began, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's about my job. The layoffs. I've been told I'm next." Lisa's breath hitched. She had sensed his unease regarding work, but she never imagined it was this dire. "What do you mean? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I didn't want to upset you. I didn't want to be the reason you feel like you have to carry more. Your dreams, your catering business, it's too important," he replied, earnestness overlaying his concern. With every word, Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her. Inexplicable anger mingled with compassion. "Mark, you're not a burden. We're partners. But this is bigger than you. We can figure this out together." Their gazes locked, and at that moment an unspoken invitation shimmered between them. She could see vulnerability etched on his face, revealing layers she had yet to understand. Yet, an unmistakable shift spurred in her. Nicole, the fiery caterer she aspired to be, could no longer shrink in the shadows of their relationship. "You need to pursue what you truly want," Mark urged. "You're too talented to hide behind me." Those words ignited something within Lisa. Her deep-seated anxieties about her culinary ambitions surfaced, tainted by the limitations she had accepted. "What if I fail?" she asked, voice wavering slightly. "What if you don't?" Mark countered, an encouraging light flickering in his expression. "You're not meant to fill the void of my shortcomings. You're meant to shine in your own right." The sharp realization hit her. She had been seeking validation, not just from Mark, but from a world that made it seem daunting to pursue authenticity. Each deliberation she'd had regarding her catering business was more than just recipes and profits. It was a test of her self-worth. And here she was, tangled in a web of anxiety built on fear of judgment. "I can't let your struggles hold me back," she decided, the words bursting forth before she had a chance to think through their implications. "I need to go all in with my catering, whatever that looks like." Something flickered across Mark's face, a mix of admiration and fear. "And what if we both fall down? What if we can't keep up? Then we'll find a way to get back up again." "Together," she replied, each syllable strengthening their connection. Their knees touched under the table, grounding them as integers in a complicated equation. In that moment of shared resolve, a flood of possibilities rushed through Lisa's mind. She envisioned her events, bustling with energy, radiating color and flavor through the very essence of her cultivating journey. Each thought danced behind her eyes, shifting her perspective on what it meant to define success. But there was still a curtain of uncertainty lurking in the distance. After this admission, would they both face their realities? Would Mark's revelation reinforce her new resolve or throw their world into turmoil? "You'll prioritize your dreams, right?" Mark asked, his tone softer now, almost pleading. "Absolutely," she replied, her tone imbued with newfound determination. Yet, as they ventured deeper into this discussion, Lisa couldn't ignore the creeping doubt that twisted at the edges of her exhilaration. The more she committed to her own path, the more she feared the consequences it could bring to their relationship. As they left the cafe, the world felt different, charged with possibility yet fraught with risk. What lay ahead was an uncertain terrain she would need to navigate carefully. Lisa's hand clenched her notebook tighter as perseverance collided with doubt. They both were dancing on the precipice of their own dreams, but with each step, could they sync their rhythms, or would the beat of discord separate them? The time had come for Lisa to confront not just her aspirations, but the delicate balance of their intertwined hopes. What would she discover about her own tenacity? What would the journey to independence reveal about her relationship with Mark? As the stars blinked into existence above, signaling the night's embrace, Lisa steeled herself. The unveiling of who she could become was just beginning. Little did she know, the most pivotal decision lay ahead, one that could alter everything she thought she understood about love and ambition. The following days passed in a whirlwind of both exhilaration and introspection for Lisa. Each morning, as she sipped coffee at her usual spot, her mind raced with ideas for her catering business, intertwining visions of burgeoning success with nagging doubts about Mark's job. The first time she opened her notebook, she felt a mixture of excitement and fear ripple through her. The pages, previously a collection of whimsical recipes and half-formed plans, begged for transformation. Determined to take control, Lisa outlined her goals. She listed potential clients, event themes, and menus that tantalized her imagination. Each ambitious entry was a declaration she made to herself, a step beyond the shadow she so often chose to linger in. Yet, she could not shake the memories of Mark's strained expression when he had unveiled his employment fate. It impacted her thoughts, clouding her vision of success. The afternoon sun poured through the cafe's large windows as she took a moment to assess her progress. Business plans drafted, she realized they were not merely scribbles, but the embodiment of her passions. As her heart raced at the thought of each event, the thrill of the culinary world unleashed a long-suppressed fire that threatened to consume her entire being. But unease flickered just beneath the surface. In quiet moments, she wrestled with doubts that hung like ominous clouds. What if her newfound ambitions didn't translate into reality? What if the risk of pursuing her dreams meant imperiling everything she had with Mark? Later that evening, as they prepared dinner together, Lisa stole glances at Mark, who seemed lost in thought. She could sense the unspoken worries that plagued him, a palpable tension suspended in the air. Despite a shared commitment to supporting each other, the looming specter of financial insecurity brought an unsettling undercurrent to their interactions. "Hey," Lisa said, breaking the silence. "Can we talk about something?" Mark turned to her, his brow furrowed. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I'm thinking of hosting a tasting event. It's a way to promote my catering business and gather interest," she proposed cautiously, gauging his reaction. His eyes lit up, but worry quickly clouded that brightness. "That sounds amazing, Lisa. But do you think it's the right time? With everything happening at work?" "Exactly. I need to take that leap, no matter what's happening around us. This is what I want," she insisted, her voice firming. Mark nodded, but doubt lingered. "I just don't want you to risk everything if I can't pull through. I need to be honest. This has been hard on me." The words hit her like a physical blow. He was struggling, and here she was, standing at the precipice of her ambition. The juxtaposition of their situations created a delicate imbalance that was becoming increasingly hard to ignore. "I know. I feel the weight too," she replied, trying to soften the blow. "But we both have to forge our paths. I can't let fear dictate my choices any longer." Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I admire your determination. Still, we're in this together. You need to know that." "I do," she assured him, grasping for clarity. "But the more I hesitate, the more I lose sight of who I am meant to be. This isn't just about my business anymore. It's about my identity." There it was, a revealing moment. Lisa realized her catering aspirations were interwoven with her self-acceptance, a declaration against the insecurity that threatened to stifle her spirit. As they stood in the warm glow of the kitchen, she felt that if she clung to the vision of a thriving business and a fulfilled life, she might just break free from the bonds that tied her down. "Then let's do it together," Mark said with determination in his voice, his face lighting with newfound resolve. "Let's face this head-on, as partners." The warmth that enveloped her in his presence amplified her courage. They were not just navigating their individual paths, they were preparing to embrace their futures together. The crossroads of their destinies strengthened through shared ambition. As Lisa went to bed that night, her mind buzzed with ideas and plans. A deep sense of purpose settled in her heart, affirming her decision to embrace her identity. But lurking beneath the surface was the looming question of whether they could truly balance their dreams without losing one another in the process. What if one decisively bold move sent them both spiraling? This was the path ahead, the blend of uncertainty and risk, where love and ambition intertwined. As sleep whisked her away, one thought persisted. Tomorrow would demand choices that would reshape the fragile foundation they were building together. Would those choices bind them closer or send them hurtling apart? The meeting with Mark at the cafe had proven to be a pivotal moment in Lisa's life, a sermon from the heart about the promise of honesty and the need for true partnership. As days turned into weeks, Lisa embraced her newfound agency. Each morning, she awoke with an invigorating sense of purpose, ready to sculpt her culinary future while carefully tending to her relationship with Mark. After a string of successful tastings, Lisa officially launched her catering business. The whirlwind of flavors, colors, and aromas filled her days with joy, each event reinforcing her own value. The compliments from delighted clients ignited a profound recognition within her. She was not merely a supporting act in her life. She was the lead, owning every moment. Yet the scales of their relationship were still delicately balanced. Mark's job uncertainty loomed like a shadow, a constant reminder of the fragility that marriage can sometimes embody. They both had embarked on personal transformations, striving for growth amid the uncertainty, but questions remained. Would their individual pursuits knit them closer or unravel their bond? As the weeks rolled on, Lisa maintained regular open dialogues with Mark. She expressed her ambitions while eliciting his own, bringing forth a newfound clarity to their conversations. A deepened understanding emerged. She saw that vulnerability could foster connection rather than create chasms. "Perhaps we should set a date to reassess things regularly," Mark suggested one afternoon as they prepped meals for an upcoming event. "We're both kinds of changing so rapidly, it'd help to keep aligned." His suggestion resonated with Lisa, illuminating the need for ongoing communication as they faced what felt like a tumultuous tide. It was a testament to their relationship's newfound resilience amidst uncertainty. But a sudden curveball emerged on a rainy evening as Lisa clutched her phone. She saw a notification bearing news about Mark's company. Another round of layoffs had been announced. A chill snaked down her spine. What would that mean for them? The gravity of the situation was palpable. Later, as they sat on opposite ends of the couch, she shared what she had learned. Mark's face paled. "I can handle it, Lisa. Just like we discussed, I'll try to find work wherever I can," he replied resolutely, but Lisa could detect the tremor beneath his voice. "We're in this together, remember? Let's evaluate our options," she suggested softly, wrapping her fingers around his hand. "Tell me how I can help." The conversation spiraled into a mixture of logistics and emotions, weaving together their dreams and fears. He laid out potential jobs he had considered, but the hint of anxiety in his tone brought up lingering questions for Lisa. It reminded her of past doubts she had allowed to creep in, but she refused to be trapped by them again. "I know that it's hard right now," she said firmly, "but this moment doesn't define us. We're stronger than I ever imagined." Mark's eyes found hers, and in that split second, both frustration and fear transformed into a flicker of hope. By leaning into honesty, they were nurturing the soil of their relationship. Lisa had confronted the fragility, and with vulnerability, they cultivated something more profound, a deep-rooted partnership. That weekend, faced with uncertainty, Lisa suggested expanding her catering business into hosting cooking classes for couples. "We can make it fun together while connecting with others who might also be feeling the pressure of life," she proposed. Excitement ignited in Mark's eyes for the first time in weeks. "That sounds amazing. We can build a community around this, encouraging others to embrace love and support one another," he agreed. As the weeks unfolded, Lisa conducted several successful classes, weaving the essence of collaboration into each event. Each couple that entered the kitchen echoed her values, sharing laughter and learning amidst the sizzling sound of pans, gradually fostering the belief that they, too, could weather any storm together. Throughout the process, Lisa internalized her own transformations. Each of her choices reflected her newfound confidence, laying the groundwork for life's unpredictable moments. She proved to herself that ambition could thrive beside partnership, as love fortified and empowered her to confront the complexities of their relationship. Eventually, Mark found freelance work that suited his professional strengths. Their joint initiative flourished. Together, with each challenge they faced, their bond solidified like forged steel. Trust was rebuilt daily, the quilt of their partnership now adorned with vibrant patches of honesty, understanding, and nurtured dreams. One afternoon, as they celebrated the success of their first community event, Lisa reflected on the transformation they had undergone as individuals and as partners. "We've both grown so much," she whispered to Mark, beads of joy sparkling in her eyes. "Together," he responded, pulling her into his embrace. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and the fragrant aroma of delicious dishes wafting through the air, Lisa felt an intoxicating sense of fulfillment. She had navigated the storm and emerged with clarity of purpose. By reclaiming her narrative, embracing her ambitions, and cultivating trust in her relationship, she had woven the tapestry of a life resilient against adversity. Lisa realized that success didn't solely exist in the dimensions of her catering business, but also within the foundation she and Mark had reconstructed. They would face life's uncertainties together, more equipped for the challenges ahead. Her journey had renewed her authentic self, showcasing the resilience she held within. The triumphs mixed with trials offered her an understanding of the kind of strength that defined both individual and shared growth, a continuous nap at the threshold of wonder and possibility. Now, as the future stretched before her, she was ready to step boldly into whatever awaited. This was a journey wrought with the fiery lessons of change, one she could embrace wholeheartedly. Don't wait, even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful end.